Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Better Than I Found It podcast. This is Ncaa. I'm joined by Coach McGraw per usual. We just recorded a long episode with Morgan Hoffman. That was pretty special right there, Coach.
Yes, Ncaa. Morgan showed me a lot about himself today, but it's what I remembered about Morgan. He's more than just a really good athlete. He's a really good person, and he's very much a deep thinker, and he's facing a lot of challenges in his life and has faced them for a while now. And he shows you can do that with courage, and it's just a very inspiring podcast, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's doing something very important with his life. Please listen for the information on his foundation. He shares some really profound things that he's learned throughout golf and also just life. And so, again, it's on the longer end of a podcast, but it's well worth your time to listen through to the end.
Yeah, Ncaa, I really enjoyed this interview, and I just want to say thanks to Morgan Hoffman for joining us today and sharing his story with us today. It's really an inspiring story.
Yeah, let's go to the conversation with Morgan Hoffman.
Okay, Morgan, welcome to my podcast, Better Than I Found It. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you. It's great to be on. I'm honored. Thanks, Coach.
Well, I'm honored to have you on here. This podcast will probably have a lot of different themes through the years as we do this, but certainly one of them is former players. And you're obviously a player who played for me at Oklahoma State way back, and we have a great history. So I'd like to just kind of let this thing run and just take it where it may go today. But one thing I really have never heard the true story about your childhood growing up in Wyckoff, New Jersey. And so why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about, you were an athlete for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Wyckoff was great. We lived in a few different houses, but always had kind of a big yard and loved playing, like being outside and playing sports and hitting golf shots over the house into the backyard and playing hockey in the winter and having my dad pitch me baseballs and all that kind of stuff. It was fun. I played ice hockey, baseball, and golf are my three major sports. And I like to think I was pretty decent in all three. And then kind of golf really came to in probably when I was like 12 or 13. And that's when I started playing in national level events and IJGT, AJGA. And I guess that's when it kind of took precedent over all the other sports. And I decided to pursue that. And kind of that's when it became my goal to be a pro. And my dad took me kind of everywhere and traveled with me to all these events, and it was exciting. I had a lot of friends up there, still do, and actually both my parents moved out of Jersey recently, and they all live in Florida now, so it's pretty crazy.
You know, speaking of your dad, Greg gave you a middle name, and I don't know if it's your middle name or your actual first name, but tell the listeners what your actual name is. It's a golf name.
That's really weird you said that, because Chelsea this morning came out of the bedroom and called me my middle name, which is McGregor. And she hasn't done that in years. And yeah, my dad named me McGregor, one, because I guess it had his name in it, which is Greg. And then the second was because it was a golf brand.
Yeah, and honestly, for 40 years, it was probably one of the top golf brands, period, in the whole industry. And so when I saw that, I guess it was on your questionnaire you filled out for when I was at Oklahoma State. I saw that McGregor. I said, this guy, we got to get this guy. He's got a great golf name for sure.
That's awesome. I love that was one of your recruiting tools there. Thanks.
Well, I live in McGregor, Texas.
No way.
Yeah. It's just crazy. Outside of Waco. So, it's kind of things coming full circle. Pam and I actually live in McGregor. So
wow, small world.
It is a small world. But, when Alan Bratton and I were talking about recruiting in the fall of '05.
Mhm.
Obviously, we were targeting a couple of really good 2007 graduates, Ricky Fowler and Kevin Tway. But we were also planning for what we might do in 2008. And I was mentioning to him, Peter Uihlein, we've got to get Peter Uihlein. He's got to be on our radar. And Alan mentioned your name. And I said, who's that guy?
I love it.
And he said, well, Coach, do you realize he just made match play this summer as a 15-year-old in both the U.S. and British amateurs? And I said, what? You kidding me? And so that's when you got on our radar. Tell us about those. You literally played in the U.S. amateur and British amateur the same summer at 15.
Yeah, it was probably my most special or most memorable experience golfing growing up was the US Am at Marion in 2000, what was it, 2005?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know, it was really cool. I made match play in a playoff. We had to come back the next morning. There was like 20 guys for 3 spots or something like that. And we all played that par 3, and I think I got through on the second playoff hole, but actually in the British Am, I believe I was in a playoff as well to get into the match play. Yeah, it was a weird experience, but a lot of fun. Played Royal St. George's over there, which is a really cool course. My first experience with links golf, and yeah, it was a great summer. It was kind of the kickoff to my career and getting noticed, I guess, by college coaches. And
well, you got Alan Bratton's attention, and he was the assistant coach that summer when I was the women's head coach. So I wasn't really paying any attention to men's amateur golf or junior golf on the men's side, but he was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he mentioned your name early in the process. So I made a plan to see you that next summer, and it was going to be at the U.S. Junior when I was going to watch Ricky Fowler, Kevin Tway, Peter Uihlein, all of those guys. Mm-hmm. But I definitely was going to watch you, and I remember making my way out to a par 3.
Yep.
And your caddy, you remember who your caddy was that year? He caddied for you a lot in those days.
Oh, David Schuster.
David Schuster.
Yeah.
And David looked back and saw me standing behind the tee, and you hadn't noticed me yet. And he pointed back to you. You looked at me. You kind of took a double take, and I think it was a shock on your face, like, why is that guy here?
I remember it. I still remember it. Like,
you hit it 3 feet from the hole. You almost made a hole-in-one, if you recall that.
I do remember, actually.
See there, I was good for your golf game. Let's face it.
You were. It was good luck.
Anyway, so that was the first time I saw you, and I noticed that week you were pretty good buddies with Peter Uihlein, and we did not have a commitment from Peter yet, but I thought that's probably pretty good. Were you starting to develop a relationship with Peter at that time?
Yeah, I mean, for the couple of years leading up to that moment, Peter and I had become like really intense competitors. We kind of hated each other on the course because I knew he was like such a sick ball striker. And whenever I played him, it was just like, it was pretty impressive. And I just always wanted to beat him, and then started playing together and kind of became friends, and always talking about, oh, where are you going? I want to go to college. And that's when it all kind of came together and started talking about Oklahoma State.
Well, so we couldn't write you at that time. It wasn't for another month and a half. And so September 1, I sent you a questionnaire and wrote you a letter. And I'll never forget this, because on the questionnaire, you basically, and I'm going to paraphrase this, I don't have it in front of me. You basically said, hey, Coach, really appreciate the interest, and I know the tradition of Oklahoma State, but I've been in cold weather all my life, and I think I'd like to go south. You remember saying that?
I remember that. Yeah. Once I got to Oklahoma State, I couldn't believe I said that.
Well, all I know is you were breaking my heart that day, but I'm a competitor. And so I told Alan Bratton, we're going to get this guy anyway. And so I'll never forget that questionnaire, because that's the first time basically a kid took the time to fill out the questionnaire and basically told me thanks, but no thanks.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But As I recall, you ended up an Oklahoma State Cowboy. I will say this too, which is very ironic. You had agreed after that whole fall. We watched you at the polo, watched you at maybe the Junior Orange Bowl as well. I'm not sure, but you had agreed to come for an unofficial visit in January of 2007. So you had your flights. What happened on that visit?
It was like a blizzard, I remember. I mean, it was all snow covered, and I'm not sure what we did first, but I mean, it's been etched into my mind that you took me in. I don't know what kind of car do you have, like
It wasn't mine. It was Coach Holder's Denali.
Denali. I was gonna say an Impala or something like that. But yeah, you took me on the course down the cart pass in the snow. I think we got like down one hole or something, and I was like, all right, I mean, this course looks sick. I love the vibe of the kind of out in the middle of nowhere kind of thing. And then when I saw the rest of the facilities and you selling me on how to hit behind what was it? The pine, not the pine trees,
Cedar trees.
Cedar trees, yeah. Because you're like, oh yeah, it's actually, when it gets into the 30s, you can just hit behind these trees to block the wind, and it feels like it's 50. I was like, oh yeah, that sounds great.
Well, that was recruiting for sure.
Yeah.
But the truth is, if you have sun shining on you and a wind block, you can practice in short sleeve at 30 degrees.
No, I agree. I did it many times. Once I realized that, I was like, oh, he's actually pretty smart.
Yeah, but I'm having to recruit you. So I'm having to try to convince a kid that Wyckoff, New Jersey to Stillwater, we can make that work. But I'll never forget that visit, because the whole time as we were taking you around, I was thinking, there's no way this kid's going to say yes, because he's trying to get away from snow and ice. And here we have this ice storm. But I recall that was in January, and it was quite a while. But at some point, I remember we were at a tournament. I had an Oklahoma State team at a tournament, and I got a call from you.
Yeah.
And we had shot 20 under par that day, and we're leading the golf tournament. So I was already in a good mood. And you said, Coach McGraw, I just called to tell you I want to be an Oklahoma State Cowboy. And I thought, man, I'm having a good day here. You remember calling that day to give me your commitment?
Yeah, of course. I think I was at the Jones Cup at Frederica.
You were.
That's all. Peter and I, we played practice rounds together. We were like doing all the chipping contests and putting contests, and they have an unbelievable facility there. I don't know why I remember this, but they had like these things that come out of the ground that spray mosquito repellent and all this. We were having a blast, and Peter and I were just continuing to talk like, all right, I think I'm going to commit today. Let's do it. And it was really exciting. My dad was there, obviously excited too.
That's cool. Well, I enjoyed that recruiting process, because it was one where I felt like my back was up against the wall and didn't really have a chance to get you, and it worked out that we did. But so you're going to be an Oklahoma State Cowboy, and you had a great summer coming in. I think you were quarterfinalist in the North-South, quarterfinalist in the Western, and I believe you were a quarterfinalist in the USAM. I'm not sure. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that was the summer that I lost to Peter, right? Or no?
No, that was the
next. You were in college then, right?
Yeah, that was in college. But you did really well leading right up to college. You came in, and the craziest thing happened. You didn't qualify for the first tournament.
Yeah, that I mean, I don't know if it was crazy or not. Like, I didn't know what I was getting into. I thought, these are the best players in the country. Oklahoma State has an unbelievable reputation, and but I do remember vividly leading up to qualifying and how checking into college, some crazy things happened.
I remember those.
Peter and I were living together, obviously, and I ended up setting off the fire alarm like the first day I got in school. And then I think the second day or another day following that, Peter and I were shooting airsoft guns at each other, or like on campus, and a cop like tried to arrest us because it was just like I don't know, they got really sensitive with that, obviously, having fake guns on campus. And he ended up talking to us for like an hour because he loved golf and found out we were on the golf team. And ever since then, I'll just say, like, we never got a ticket in college after that for speeding or anything.
That is a very, very powerful tool, isn't it?
Yeah, he was a great guy. Still have friends to this day.
Officer Davis, I bet.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, great guy, great guy. Hey,
Um,
I would say this, though. When I got back from that first tournament where I'd taken the team and I came back, the head pro at Carson Creek came in and said to me, he said, Coach, I don't know who you're planning on taking to your next tournament, but I know one guy that'll be on the plane. And I said, who's that? And he said, Morgan Hoffman. He said, I'm not sure he went to class. He practiced daylight to dark while you guys were gone. You remember?
yeah,
You
I
were
was pretty
motivated, weren't
furious. I was really mad. I don't know if my mindset was kind of just, I don't know, all just focused on all the things that were happening, and not as much golf. And after that kind of slapped me in the face, back to reality of like, all right, you got to get your shit together here. So yeah, that was my main goal, getting on that next trip. And I mean, the facilities, like if you love practicing and if you love getting better, having a good facility is just like nostalgic. You go there and it's like, oh, all right, this is why I'm here. So it was easy to practice. It was easy to reach your goals, I think.
Well, as I recall, you did fairly well in that first tournament. It was the preview up at Inverness, and you won. That's a pretty good way to enter college golf.
Yeah, that was fun. I remember that course was hard, and yeah, I loved hard courses. I felt like I had an advantage.
They've added about 400 or 500 yards to Inverness since you played it.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's a monster now. They could host a U.S. Open there pretty easy right now, in my opinion. It's amazing. So anyway, we go through that first year, and now I'll just kind of meander away. I've just got some memories of you during college, those years. I remember 10 under par at Southern Highlands. You remember that round?
Of course. Of course I do.
That was pretty amazing there.
I remember the day prior, I think I shot even. Yeah, I think I shot 72, and I came in to you and Donnie, and I was like, hey, I think I just played one of the best rounds ever, and I just didn't make any putts. Like, I'm stuffing it from the fairway. And Donnie's just like, all right, like keep playing like that, and see what happens tomorrow. And I just had like that confidence about me, and I was like, yeah, it's gonna happen tomorrow, no problem. And I just started making everything. I remember I had the detour putter. Remember that thing?
I remember the detour putter.
Yeah, and it was a great round. Everybody, I think, I'm not gonna say who, but one of our teammates cried that day.
Well, one of your teammates didn't play very well that day. You beat him by 18 shots.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they.
But Southern Highlands had a little more history for you as far as your last year at Oklahoma State. So spring of 2011, you won the tournament. But tell the listeners leading up to the tournament what happened.
Yeah, I mean it was crazy. We got into rec league basketball, and so like the whole team was playing on different teams, and we.
I didn't know about that, correct?
I mean, we thought you figured you had an idea, but yeah. So we were practicing. We snuck in the athletic department, and I think it was early one morning or one night, and I went up to try to dunk, and I came down on somebody's foot and ended up like not being able to move, had no idea what was going on, and months later found out that it was broken. But our trainer at the time thought it was just a sprain, so it treated it as such, and just had me in like a boot, not a cast. And yeah, it was brutal. It was so painful, and I knew I wanted to go to to play that event because I had such good memories there. And it was rough. Like you ended up taking me, thankfully, and only hitting balls on one foot leading up to it.
And you rode a cart in the practice round. You didn't even walk the practice
round. Yeah, it was crazy. We had one of the trainers on site there, thankfully, had like this super heavy duty tape. And I went in the morning, I was like, look, I don't think I can walk on this. Like, can you just tape this thing up as good as you can? And it was coming over my sock. And, but yeah, I could barely had any mobility with it. And maybe that should be like a lesson. I should have more weight on my left foot because I broke my right foot.
Should have learned something there, I would think. But you did win the golf tournament, and we won as a team as well.
Yeah.
So that was a nice deal. But I'm not sure a guy should break his foot to win a golf tournament, but you did it.
I agree.
So I have a memory when you were, and we can talk about this, you obviously talked about being an athlete as a boy. I mean, you've always done something athletic your entire life. And I remember I have these images of you in college where you might go run 3 miles one evening, you might play racquetball the next evening, you might swim the next day, you might do a full-on workout another day, but you always wanted to just be moving and working with your body. And so we were playing a tournament in California.
Court of Ball. Yeah, that's right.
And did you ever play the tour event there?
Yep, I did.
Okay. So we pull into the parking lot, and I'm driving the van, and you look to the left, and what do you see?
That huge mountain.
By the gigantic mountain. And you looked at me and you said, Coach McGraw, you and me.
Yeah.
We're climbing that mountain. And I said, were you kidding me? What are you talking about? So I have this memory of us, after the round, I'd completed the second round and you had finished your practice. We both went in and changed and got into some hiking clothes, if you will, and just hiked all the way to the top of the mountain. And we took a photo up there. I don't have that on my phone because it was on my BlackBerry. It's dead. Do you still have that photo?
I probably still have it on one of my old phones. Maybe I'll try to find it.
You need to send that to me because that was a beautiful, beautiful view from up there.
That's true.
We climbed a mountain together at a tournament.
Yeah, that it reminds me of other things that you like to climb, which was the Stairmaster.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah.
In the morning, we all revered Coach for that. It was like the animal. We were like, how does he do this? It's ridiculous. He's like 80 years old and he's up here on.
Wait. I was around 50 at the time. Okay. So, this summer I haven't been doing that Stairmaster for the first time in 23 years. So
oh, wow.
I'm gonna start up again next week. So
Nice.
We'll see how I do, but it's a killer.
It is. It's brutal. I need to get back on it. Actually, yesterday, ironically, I was thinking about stadiums. I would go and take players who wanted to try to get me in stadiums, and I ended up doing like 22 a week or once a morning, and it was just like brutal. But yeah, I love moving around, and I think that's why we connected so much too, because you loved it as well, and being adventurous, and I always looked up to you for having a morning routine, and that's something I try to stick to this day. And you always got up and stretched and did your workouts religiously, and I think that's very important to starting your morning off right.
Yeah, I think so too. To me, part of life is doing whatever you can to stay healthy and stay active and vibrant. So I always thought that was important. Plus, the built-in thing about being a college golf coach is the team is working out, so you can kind of join in and do some of that.
That's nice, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Tell me a story about one of your teammates, Sean Einhaus. You and Sean, one of the things that struck me about both of you is I've always thought of you guys as having a really deep thinking heart for other people. In other words, you care about other people a lot. So can you kind of talk to me about something you guys called the Nepal Fund?
Yeah, so Sean and I kind of grew up kind of like Peter and I, playing against each other. He was from Germany, grew up in Germany, and his mom was from Nepal. And we just became kind of best friends. And I remember recruiting him after I committed to Oklahoma State. We were playing the Orange Bowl together, and I was like, hey, you got to come to Oklahoma State. He was a sick junior golfer. And obviously I wanted the best team for us, so I wanted to have him there. And he ended up coming. And I think it was our first semester there or second semester?
The second semester, spring.
Yeah. I don't know, we were just talking one day and about how lucky we are and how, everything from having 3 meals a day to having a roof over our head to having clothes that we can wear different days. And we just wanted to do something to give back. And Sean was like, all right, well, I'm from Nepal and these people over here live on less than $1 a day and only eat rice, and let's try to raise some money for them. And they were in the midst of building a school there, and I was like, all right, let's do it. So we kind of got everybody in our Rolodex per se to try to donate a dollar amount per hole. And we were going to set out on a 1-day journey of playing as many holes as we possibly could. And the donors would hopefully keep their word and donate whatever it was, $1 a hole or $2. And we got the women's team and the men's team to do it, which was amazing. Sean and I stuck it out and ended up playing 108 holes that day. It was amazing. I'm not sure. I think we raised like 19,000 in that day.
Yeah, it was just short of 20. I remember that.
Yeah. So we tried to figure out how to get it to Nepal because it was just difficult to wire and all that kind of stuff, and ended up finally getting it there, and ended up buying these Mac computers for the school and the kids that have never seen computers before. And it was just really special, and everybody at Oklahoma State kind of just took us in and really helped out. So it was very special.
And the Nepal Fund was sort of a foreshadowing of something that would happen in your life later that we'll talk about here in just a bit, about your trips to Nepal. But finish up with the college years. You were a Palmer Cupper and a Walker Cupper in the same year. Tell us about those experiences, because I know that those were special to you.
Yeah, it was special. Kind of bringing us back on the topic of Marion. I was actually, I think, the only person to play the USAM, the Walker Cup, and the US Open at Marion.
Oh, wow.
Which was a pretty cool kind of thing to have, because it's one of my favorite courses. And yeah, the Walker Cup was incredible. Ricky was on the team. Peter was on the team. We had just had a really strong Oklahoma State representation there, and we had a blast. Buddy Marucci was the captain, and the team was great. We had a lot of fun in downtown. It's not Pittsburgh, is it?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Yeah. And then the Palmer Cup was sick too, because Arnie was actually there, and him and I talked about flying and all the different planes that he had and where he started, and even took me to like his last flight of that. He was flying from California across the coast, and he was every controller that he talked to and checked in at was like, "Hey Arnie, like, love you, man. Thanks for all you do for the game," kind of thing. And
he told you that story? He did?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. It was really special.
Well, tell me that was those were great experiences, but also you started your pilot degree. You started your flight degree at Oklahoma State while you were there, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. It was probably the only class I was interested in. Yeah, it was great. I did ground school there. It was very unique to have an aviation program and have your own airport on campus. Very rare, and I kind of took advantage of it. And my mom was a flight attendant for Delta, still is. And 2 of my uncles were in the Air Force, and it kind of just was like another kind of form of freedom for me. And I was like, oh man, if I could just fly myself everywhere, it would be so cool. So did my ground school there. And then when I graduated, finally finished my flying in Florida, which I'm glad I did, because flying in thunderstorms and around thunderstorms, you need to have a lot of knowledge of cell movement and wind and high pressure, low pressure, all that kind of stuff. So it worked out.
Well, that's great. I know that you and I think George McNeil were the only two guys flying their own plane while you were playing the tour, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's really neat. And to have had that experience with Arnold Palmer, just him talking to you about it must have been great. But I will talk about one other thing relative to your education at Oklahoma State, because the truth is you came to Oklahoma State to play golf.
Yeah.
Even though you're a smart kid, and you didn't have in the front of your mind, I've got to get this great degree, that type of thing. That wasn't in the front of your mind. And so going into your last year at Oklahoma State, you were just under the threshold of a 3.2. You had a 3.19, something in that ballpark. And at the end of that semester, you would either qualify or not qualify for All-American Scholar for your junior year. And I told you before the semester, you need to make a 3.4 or whatever it was this semester so you'll qualify. And you looked at me and said, why, Coach? And I said, because I want you to be an academic All-American. And you did that for me that semester. And you did it for yourself, but you did it for somebody else too. Who was really moved by that All-American Scholar plaque?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty mad at you for saying that, giving me some special guideline. But looking back on it, it made me better. And I think educating yourself and always keeping your head in a book or trying to learn and keep your brain on is very important. But yeah, my mom was always big on academics and wanted me to do well in school first, and because it was a backup kind of thing. And but yeah, she was really pumped that I ended up doing that, and then giving her the kind of plaque to see that she was.
Yeah. She was emotional when she talked to me about it, because she probably never expected you to go there and get an academic award, which was great. But somebody who was an academician was your sister, Heather. She was an amazingly smart girl, and she went to Oklahoma State. Tell us about that.
Yeah, she did. She, looking back on our childhood, we were very lucky to be two determined kids. I think since a young age, before we were kind of 10 years old, we both knew what we wanted to do. I always wanted to play golf, and she always wanted to be a veterinarian. And she came out to visit me one year at Oklahoma State and loved it, and went and looked at the vet school and also loved that, and ended up coming out there. Did great, was I think number one in her class, and then ended up going to Florida UF for her doctorate. So she was really smart, and it was nice to go to the same school. And it was crazy, two Jersey kids going out there to Oklahoma State. It's pretty rare, probably.
Yeah, that was crazy. But she was obviously, it was great to have your sister out there, even though it was for a short time when you were there overlapping together. But that was great.
It was. Then I gave her my car that I had that I just beaten into the ground, and she had that for like the next couple of years. And all the guys on the golf team were like, God, how'd you give her that car? You didn't drive under 100 miles an hour going to the course every day.
Is that the old BMW?
Yeah.
How did she survive?
I don't know. It's a great question.
Great. Well, listen, one of the things I'm going to sort of talk about a little bit, it's pretty painful for both you and I, and that is the Ncaa Championship 3 consecutive years. We had the best team in the country, and we didn't win any of the 3 years. So let's get that talked about and get that behind us real quick.
Yeah, I mean, in my head, obviously, and I think in all of our heads, we knew we were the best team. We won stroke play by, I think, the smallest margin was like 15 shots. And we had fun, we carried our heads around high and knew we were the best, and we're very pissed off that it went to match play. Obviously, knowing that we could still win, I think we were confident in each other. But it's match play. Anything can happen. Anybody can get hot. And yes, obviously, it's more entertaining and it's good for TV. But it doesn't show the best team necessarily. And yeah, we were really frustrated. I remember having it at Inverness and honors course, and it was all the endings were pretty brutal, but I couldn't have asked for a better team. We all got along. We had a great time. The support was really awesome, and yeah, just unfortunate of the ending circumstance.
Yeah, but that's all right. We grew from it. All of us got better. It was great. And but anyway, you did play in a great team while you were there, and so now it's time to turn pro. And you went out and you turned pro. You didn't have any status to begin with, so you were Monday qualifying for quite a long time, weren't you?
Yeah, definitely. Before I went pro, I obviously talked to you and Coach Bratton and Donnie and Coach Holder, just out of respect. I didn't really get to know him that well. But you guys were obviously wanting me to stay the last year, but I kind of knew where I wanted to go, and my dream was to be on the PGA Tour. And you guys were all supportive, and the only one, Coach Holder, was like, "Oh, you're making a terrible mistake. You should stay one more year." Da, da, da. And that kind of like rang in my head for the first year of being pro, because I played these Monday events, and I think I missed like 6 of them by 1 shot and never shot above 70. And then finally I was like, man, all right, how do I really get better? How do I get 1 shot better? Like, I know I'm playing well. I'm shooting 68, 67, 66, not getting in. I was like, all right, I need to play to my strengths and just hit driver everywhere, basically, and trust my wedges and putting. And that's what really kind of shot me into my game, I guess, and gave me that confidence, and got me onto the web playing. I think I played 11 events that first year and top 10 in 10 of them. And then that's how I got my tour card, and it was a great learning experience. I definitely am very grateful for the way it happened.
Yeah, it worked out well. And that's something I didn't talk about. You were one of the longest straight drivers I'd ever seen in my career. Because you weren't short, you were a long hitter,
Mm-hmm.
but you drove it in the fairway all the time. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it's great. Well, so you get your PGA Tour card through the web.com or Korn Ferry now tour, and you had your card, and actually you made the playoffs, I think 3 out of 4 years in a row, and you went deep into a deep run in 2015 where you, I think, finished 3rd at the BMW, finished 62, 63 out there. So, I mean, your game was progressing just like you had hoped it would, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. No, it was great. Yeah, obviously it wasn't what I wanted, I think I could win on tour, but there was I think we're kind of leading into something else that happened, which kind of hindered me and, brought me on a different path.
Well, I'm saying it was obvious your game was going in a good trajectory. You looked like a guy that was going to be a long-time PGA Tour player, and you were succeeding on the PGA Tour. And I don't know what you finished in the FedEx Cup playoffs that year, but pretty high.
Yeah, like 24 or something.
Yeah. But then kind of life hit you. It really did. And I want to talk about the diagnosis of MD, and I want you to talk about that as you feel comfortable doing. Just tell us about this journey that you've been on since that time.
Well, it's an extremely long journey in the last 3 or 4 years. I've learned more than I could have ever imagined. It's kind of been a blessing and a stab in the back at the same time kind of thing. But in 2016, I got the diagnosis. But from the moment I graduated college, I had this like right pec started to deteriorate, and I had no idea why. And like when I saw my shirt off, I had like a cutout of muscle basically, and ended up being like, all right, maybe it's just a nerve entrapment or something, and it'll go away. That was kind of like the first year. And then the second year, I was like, all right, it's getting worse, so I need to figure out what's going on, and started going to doctors. So the next 4 or 5 years, I went all over the country trying to figure out what it was, and admitted myself to Mayo Clinic and for 5 days. And I was like, all right, look, I want you to do every test known to man. I don't care if insurance covers it or not, just do it. And at the end, I'll never forget, I was laying in the bed and 8 doctors came around me and were like, look, we have no idea what it is. We're sorry, kind of thing. Like, good luck. I was like, all right, this is just depressing kind of. And then, I mean, a million other stories like that, doctors telling me, oh, that it's this, and it ended up not being that, and saying like, oh, I just cured you, you're fine. Call me in 3 weeks, your muscle will be grown back. And it ended up being very disappointing, the way that I was treated by doctors in the States here, kind of as like just another patient, you know. And I think a lot of people feel that way, unfortunately. So that kind of lit a fire under me to look at other options, instead of just going and getting shots or a surgery or taking a pill. I was like, all right, there's got to be something else in the world that can help me. So finally I went to this neurologist in New York City, and he was like, I think you have some form of muscular dystrophy. Let me test for it. I was like, all right, whatever, man. Like, you're an idiot, you know, like, here, take my blood. It's not going to be that. So like, he's like, all right, I'll call you in like 3 weeks. And 6 months go by and I haven't heard anything. And finally he called me, and it was like a 1-minute phone call. And he's like, hey, yeah, we got your diagnosis back, and it's positive for FSH MD. I was like, well, what is that? And he's like, it's a rare form of muscular dystrophy. I was like, all right, what do I do? And he's like, there's no cure. I was like, all right, what does that mean? He's like, I don't know. Good luck. It's like, all right, this is like, I wanted to just yell into the phone and break things. And so that's when I started my journey to look outside the country and for natural healing, and educating myself on diet, nutrition, and meditation, and breathing, and anything natural that kind of could and has healed people. And it brought me to my first attempt at like changing my diet, was from a guy named Dr. Robert Morse. He's a doctor that really promotes heavy cleansing of the body when you have an ailment. He's notorious for curing cancer. And he believes, and I believe now, that the body is extremely self-healing. And if you put it in the right environment, then it will heal itself. It's just like you take a knife and cut yourself here. Like, you don't have to do anything to it. It's just going to heal. Your blood coagulates and heals itself, and, you know, the cells regenerate. And it's really an amazing accomplishment that our body can do on its own. So all the doctors and naturopaths that I worked with say that this disease has been turned on genetically by something in your environment, whether it's inside of you or outside of you or in your head. And so what that meant to me was like, all right, maybe it's from the pesticides on the golf course, or maybe it's my mindset. I'm stressed about something. I want to be better at golf and I'm not, or like maybe I'm eating like shit, which I was in college. We were eating Buffalo Wild Wings and
I didn't send you there. All right.
yeah, no, you didn't. But yeah, so I changed my ways and ended up starting this cleanse, and which basically was just fruit. And I saw a lot of great things happening, and everything was progressing, and I was cleansing my body of many things that have been backed up for years, and saw my skin changing and my tongue changing, my eyes changing colors, and it was really cool. And then Chelsea, my wife, she's very philanthropic and always wanted to go help like kids on her own, you know, and do it on her own. So I set her up in Nepal, and she went and helped the victims from that huge earthquake over there, and spent weeks over there with kids and staying at Sean's mom's hotel. And ironically, she was having dinner one night and sitting next to this doctor who was talking to Sangeeta, Sean's mom, and he was working with a patient who was staying in the hotel that had muscular dystrophy and Parkinson's, and he was in a wheelchair for the last like 20 years. And within 2 weeks of working with this doctor, if you call it that, he's a guru who lives up in the Himalayan mountains. And within 2 weeks, he started walking again and was eating and talking normal, and it was incredible. So Chelsea called me and was like, hey, if like you think this cleanse isn't working right now or whatever, I think you should really come over here. This is pretty impressive what he's doing. And he feels very confident about muscular dystrophy. So I called my guy, Dr. Robert Morse here, and I was like, look, how long is this going to take? I want to get back on tour. Like, can you cure my muscular dystrophy quick? Whatever. He's like, I don't know. It can take 2 months. It can take 2 years of cleansing. And I was like, all right, well, I didn't think I had that time then. So I rushed over to Nepal and it was a 90-day treatment every day for 6 hours a day. I was on like a table and they were doing all this herb work, covering me in herbs. I was taking different herbs as well orally. And it was one of the toughest things I've ever done, and very mentally trying and physically. And in the end, like 2 months in, I kind of wanted to quit because I didn't really see anything going on. And he promised me I'd see results within 2 weeks. He's like, just come for 2 weeks, and if it doesn't work, then you can leave. I was like, all right, well, 2 months in, nothing was happening. So I was like, shit, what do I do? I talked to Chelsea. She came over to be with me for a little bit, which was huge because it was getting tough. And she was like, look, if you don't stay, you're going to forever regret this and be like, all right, what if kind of thing. And the last month, like things, I felt muscle fibers started firing again, and it was very exciting. So after that, I think I can say it kind of halted the progression or the atrophy, and which was huge, you know, like I don't think that's ever really been done. And now I'm on a journey of trying to completely reverse it. And I know that can be done, because if a gene can be turned on, it can be turned off. And through all my studying and research, I've even met people who have completely changed their genetic structure, changed their DNA, have grown things back, have gotten tumors to pop out of their body without surgery. I met a woman who had a brain tumor, who was given 2 weeks to live by these Western doctors, and went to this doctor I'm working with, and within 40 days she was completely clear of the tumor. So it's been an amazing journey. And now I've been going back and forth from Costa Rica to do different types of herbal plant-based treatment, which is something completely different than I could ever imagine. And it's more about connecting back to the earth kind of spiritually, and these plants like really open your mind and open your neural pathways to, like, it's really different dimensions. It's things that I never really thought were possible. And it's incredible. I think that I kind of it was meant for me to happen this way. And I'm 30 years old, and I have made a decision to, stop golf until I cure myself. I'm like a guinea pig, I'm not taking any money from anybody. I'm just exhausting all my options and kind of experimenting with my own body all over the world. And I think one day I know I'm going to have the answer, and that's why we've built our foundation.
Yeah, would you tell the listeners about your foundation, because this journey story has been amazing, how you've gotten to this point, but I'd love to also for them to hear about what you've done with the foundation.
Yeah, so that's right when, after I got diagnosed. I think anybody getting diagnosed with anything is like goes through a period of kind of why me thoughts, and I think that's normal. But after that, my mind was like, all right, I have a great platform here. I had Chelsea, who kind of really helped me go through this and think about what we can do. And we ended up starting the Morgan Hoffman Foundation and trying to raise money to build a health and wellness center dedicated to helping muscular dystrophy patients. But not only that, I want, through this crazy journey, I want to really educate people how they can heal naturally. And we want to educate them on how to do that. And it's a huge process of unlearning. We're brought up to eat milk, from cows, and we're brought up to be eating steaks and having soda and pizza, and literally all that stuff is carcinogenic and killing your body and making your body acidic. And it basically comes down to a simple equation of science, really, which is, in science class in 6th grade, you have an acid and you have a base, like your body is very similar. If it's too acidic, things are going to start happening and growing, and your body will start trying to heal itself. And that's basically what cancer and diseases are. Any type of disease, really, your body is too acidic and it's forming things that the Western world thinks is bad, but really it's just trying to get rid of something bad in your body. So if you transition that and your environment and what you're eating into a base and non-acidic foods, then your body will allow itself to heal. And it's just an amazing thing. And that's why we want to create this health and wellness center. We're not exactly sure where yet, but we've raised a bunch of money and have some great doctors and healers and people that we're working with, and it's going to be very, very special, I think.
Morgan, I think that the altruistic nature of what you and Chelsea are doing is great, because you're trying to give back and you're trying to create something that's going to help not just you, and it is helping you already, your health, but it's going to help other people long after you're gone one day. But and as good as that is, and that's wonderful, there's also that underlying belief that if you do cure your body and if you do get healthy again, you could play professionally, no question, again, right?
Right. Yeah. That's what I was kind of disappointed in. After Nepal, I was so excited. I went through this journey, and I was like, all right, I think I feel good. I'm proud of myself that I did this. And maybe it is cured, who knows? And I just started getting right back into working out and golfing, and didn't give it time. And I came back too early. And so now, thankfully, the tour has given me another medical to kind of figure things out. And this time I'm just not going to come back until I know I have this thing beat. And I think I'm on my way. And as I said earlier, I'm 30. I think guys look at Dustin and even Phil, like in their 50s playing unbelievable. So I know I still have time, and I'm excited about it and finally at peace with that.
Well, I think that's great. And, a couple of things I remember about you. One, you were incredibly determined. I mean, that's just who you were. When you were at Oklahoma State playing for me, there wasn't anything I was going to do to stand in your way. Nobody. In other words, you were determined to succeed. And you're taking that same sort of attitude toward this disease. And it's inspiring for me. It's inspiring for anybody that knows you and people that are finding out your story. I will be on site the day you play in your next PGA Tour event. I want to be there. So
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Very, very inspiring and exciting. And one of the things that, you mentioned Chelsea a few times. Tell us a little bit more about her and how she's helped you through this journey. I mean, obviously she's encouraged you in a great way, but how has she been an inspiration for you?
She is, since I met her, she's just been so honest and loving, and more loving than I could have ever imagined, really. Just so supportive and always wanting the best for me. And she just has that inner nature, and it's really, what's the word? Breathtaking, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
But she's just she wants the best for everybody, and she's gone on her own journeys now of healing, and it's really incredible. We've been, as I said, going back down to Costa Rica and working with these healers, and I think she's kind of going down that path of becoming a healer herself. And she's Native American from Oklahoma, and has a lot of great connections there, and has learned a lot of things. But now these shamans that we're working with in Costa Rica are very special, and she's kind of following in their footsteps, and I can't wait to see her bloom into what she ends up being. But yeah, she's always been the drive behind the Morgan Hoffman Foundation. She's running it. She's such a great people person, very smart and dedicated and very organized. So it's nice to have her helping with it and really being the driving force.
That's great. Well, that's wonderful that you have somebody alongside you to share all this with as you make your way back, one, to health, and then two, possibly one day back to the tour, and then also creating a foundation that will be long lasting. So Morgan, I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast today. It's been inspiring for me. I actually hadn't heard all this story. So great to hear some of it. And
yeah, of course.
When you, as a player, you always inspired me, but you're inspiring me more now as a man. So
thanks, Coach.
That's pretty awesome.
Well, I want to say thank you for, always being there for me. And I don't know if many people know this about Coach, but he came to our foundation event last year, and we had a sick live auction, and we had a buddy of mine who did a live painting on the course. So all the people who were playing saw him and saw the picture growing into what it eventually was. And that night we auctioned it off, and it was Ben Hogan's 1-iron at Marion, ironically.
Yep.
And it was an incredible painting, very big. And we had it up on stage, and Coach came over to me before it kind of went off and was like, "I'm going to buy this." And I was like, "All right, whatever, Coach, thanks." Like, I have no idea how much it's going to be. And the auction's going on and it's getting really high and pricey. And I was like, oh man, this is crazy. And I looked out to the auctioneers, and the last bid, they were like, all right, sold. And I looked who it was. It was Coach McGraw. And I mean, I think we all kind of went into tears, and it was just very, very special, because that really, we hadn't seen each other in a while, and it just, good friends like always catch up and get back to where they were. And doing something like that for me and our foundation was just one of the most special things. And I always knew that we were friends, but that kind of took it to the next level of, like, you know, a brotherhood kind of love thing. And it was really cool. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but it was honestly my pleasure to be able to do it. Thankful I could. And just thanks, Morgan, for being an inspiration. You're awesome. Keep it up. And like I said, we're gonna hopefully be there on the first tee when you tee it up again one day.
Oh yeah. Thank you. I can't wait.
Thanks, Morgan.
Yeah.
Thank you again to Morgan Hoffman for coming on the podcast today. It was a very inspiring story. I very much enjoyed it. And I also want to say thanks to Morgan for his friendship. He's been great to know through the years, one as a player and now as just a fellow friend in life. But if somebody wants to find out more about his foundation, they can go to morganhoffman.org. And that's Hoffman with 2 N's on the end, morganhoffman.org. And you can find out all about the foundation that he and his wife, Chelsea, have created that has just been amazing for research already. And then I would also like to say thank you all for listening to Morgan's story today. I think you couldn't help but be moved by it, and can't help but be a Morgan fan now, I would say. But thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you next week on our podcast, Better Than I Found It.